Hey, this is Alexi Lawless. There is nobody in U.S. soccer that is more important than the Cooligans.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, we are here.
Wow, special episode.
Special episode. This is exciting. We are speaking to this might be our first filmmaker, right? I mean,
or a film star.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. Was Ray Hudson in any movies? I don't think so. Not that I remember. It seems like he might have been in an 80s action movie.
Sure.
But this is our first film, our first celebrity, our first film star that we're going to have on. And also, we both had the luxury. Well, did you get a chance to meet him? Because I met him.
No, I did not meet him because this was
No, you did at NY Fest.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes. He was there as well. Okay. But I didn't meet him at Kicking and Screening Festival where his film was screening.
You didn't get to see the movie. You didn't get to hang out with him afterwards.
No, you got that luxury.
Hardcore. But it's a funny movie and it's about soccer. And I mean, what fits Cooligans more than that?
Exactly.
It's a funny something about soccer, and it's something that we try to do. And it covers a lot more than soccer. It covered a little bit of hurling, a little bit of Irish history, which I used to make fun of my wife a little bit because she's also part Irish afterwards. So it was great for me all around. But the star of the movie, unless you're driving, I want you to put your hands together for the one, the only, Eoin O'Callaghan, everybody.
Owen, how's it going, man?
It is a pleasure and an honor to be a part of this such a fabulous and wonderful presence that you guys have in this podcast environment. It's very special for me to be a guest here. I feel very overwhelmed by this.
That
is very sweet of you, sir.
The fans have become the celebrities all of a sudden. It's great to get a chance to talk to you now. We kind of knew of you a little bit. You were doing a lot of TV in Canada for like a football kind of news show, correct?
Yeah, we had this kind of very off TV show called the Fox Soccer Report. So it was. It all took place in this tiny studio in Winnipeg in the middle of Canada, but because it was part of the Fox Soccer Network, it was broadcast right across the United States as well. So you had this kind of really peculiar situation whereby you kind of went into you shared this office space with all these kind of local news journalists who were kind of busy chasing, bodies that were found in dumpsters, which happened quite a lot in Winnipeg. God bless it. It's a wonderful place. But simultaneously to that, in another corner of that office, there was a small group of soccer journalists creating this TV show for Fox Soccer Channel, and that was us. So it was a little bit of a weird contrast, but it was this cult TV show, and I think it still is kind of well remembered and well regarded, and it was an amazing kind of boyhood dream. When you're in your early 20s and you get asked to sit in the studio for an hour every night and talk about not just Premier League soccer but Bundesliga, France, Serie A, MLS, obviously. So it was great. It was absolutely incredible sort of time in my life professionally. So I'm sure there are maybe a handful of your listeners who may remember Fox Soccer Report, and hopefully they will have good memories of it.
What you were describing sounds very much like what we're doing now, right? We're just, obviously, I imagine a show on Fox is probably a little bit more serious than the Cooligans podcast.
Just a tad.
But
not necessarily.
But that's, I'm curious, just since we have decided to kind of make a stronger focus on Major League Soccer. What is your impression of Major League Soccer, and how was that? I know, MLS has three teams in Canada, but what was the reception like of Major League Soccer in Canada?
I think it's a little bit of a strange one north of the border because, you kind of look at Toronto FC as something that's kind of existing in its own bubble a little bit right now. I remember obviously Toronto being through so many trials and tribulations, and when we were actually doing that TV show for Fox, TFC were the biggest MLS joke in town. It followed along that same pattern of Toronto was a sports mad city, but they couldn't win anything. So, I mean, to see them now and to see how well they're playing. I remember coming to Toronto in like the summer of 2015 when the Women's World Cup was on. I went to a game. It was the first time I'd seen them play under Greg Vanney. And I left BMO Field that day thinking, there's something a bit different about this team. They were really, really slick that day. It was a Canadian derby, actually. They beat Montreal that afternoon. And they just looked really, really different and really, really energetic and really well run. And I left thinking, maybe this is something. And so in terms of the Canadian kind of environment, I think CFC are kind of existing, in kind of out on their own a little bit and slightly detached from both Montreal and Vancouver, who obviously are just trying to play catch up a little bit. But it's difficult up here. It's not even just from an MLS perspective, but even in terms of how it trickles down. Obviously something like the NASL has undergone its own problems recently, but you lost a team like FC Edmonton. Edmonton in Canada has always had a kind of a rich pedigree of soccer in the country. There's no professional team there right now anymore. So that's kind of been a bit of a blow. Obviously, there's ongoing plans for the Canadian Premier League, which will obviously be it's kind of its own entity, but you're trying to figure out how that's going to work without Montreal, Vancouver, and Toronto being part of that. So it's a difficult one up here, and it's a bit for attention. And it's weird because obviously the best show in town is Toronto FC. So again, it's a little bit of a weird situation in many respects, but hopefully TFC will continue to kind of keep the spotlight shining up here a little bit.
I mean, what also do you make of just being someone that follows soccer so strongly and now having, these three Canadian teams that are doing pretty well, and a lot of the youth products now seem to be doing really well, in particular over in Montreal, which I know you guys don't consider part of Canada, but you've got the kid Tabla, who just got sold to Barcelona to play for Barca B, made his first appearance for Barca B, and the next day he's training with the actual first team. 0 to 100, to quote a Toronto rapper, but that seems to be something that's developing so quickly. First of all, where are these kids training? You live in igloos. And second of all, like, what does this mean? You got the Canadian Premier League starting up. You've got all these, teams that are doing pretty well and drawing big fans for the MLS, which shines a big light. Canadian players are now domestic players in MLS. All of a sudden, you've got these youth players making these big moves. What does that mean for you guys?
Yeah, well, it's really you should bring that up because even Kyle Larin has finally kind of got that move to Besiktas sorted as well, which was obviously kind of a long running saga.
He was going to move to Europe regardless if anybody wanted him to go or not.
He was taking photos with any jersey you handed him.
But the kind of international scene up here is just so strange. Obviously a lot was made of Alphonso Davies for understandable sort of reasons. But we've Canada haven't been at a World Cup since 1986. That's kind of an entire generation. So there's this thing where you do want to kind of wax lyrical about domestic players and particularly underage players, but still history will show you that it's not a clear it's not a clear kind of stepping stone to the top. And what you want to do is you want to retain those young players and give them the best chance possible to succeed. And ultimately, like that, obviously the US kind of have a better grip on it in terms of, a certain player like Borussia Dortmund who decided to head to Europe to develop as a player rather than to stay domestically. So there is that sort of thing where you certainly want to get the benefit of these players long term, and does that mean that you kind of have to let them fly a little bit and seek pastures new? And certainly I think in the Canadian from a Canadian perspective that's equally true. That the kind of infrastructure here and the resources that can be given to those players, it's just not strong enough, and ultimately for these players to be judged, you kind of have to really go and prove yourself at those levels. And I think that's probably the frustrating thing where you have these exciting, youngsters who are hinting at great things, but yet at the same time, you have fall off in terms of where the international team is, you know, and you know, obviously you guys have probably, you know, heard about the John Herdman appointment, and if he's taken over the senior men's team here, obviously after doing a great job with the women's side. But, you know, the men's program really has been pretty chaotic. Coaches bouncing in and out, left, right and centre, and there just hasn't really been any sense of stability and any long-term planning. So you just would hope that in the short and medium term they can firstly get that sorted, and then those younger players that are thinking of good things can be part of the system that has been thought out and has been planned and programmed, and then they can obviously reap the rewards.
Well, let's talk about Celtic Soul, because there is. I didn't get a chance to see the movie yet. Alexis did,
yeah. And from our fans, you may hear an accent, and no, that's not a Toronto accent. You're hearing on Owen. Yeah, you are originally from Ireland, and this movie involves Ireland.
It's Irish, man. So we both of us, oddly enough, have a very deep connection to Ireland. I went to Dublin a couple years ago to my brother. He's a professional handball player, and handball originated from Ireland. When Irish immigrants settled in Brooklyn, in New York, and then Alexis just went there recently and fell in love with the city. We both done comedy in Ireland, but a couple things before we talk about Celtic Soul. Let's talk about both of our countries missing out on the World Cup. We are both going to be, watching it on TV. How did you feel about Ireland not, qualifying this time around?
What happens in Ireland usually is we don't do well when we're expected to attain a level of success.
Well, so I think that's the Irish sentiment in its entirety.
Yeah, it's like, oh God, I hope we don't succeed, because then people are going to expect it, or that means something bad's going to happen after. That seems to be the Irish way to go.
Yeah, I mean, when someone says to you, "Oh, you should really win today," that's the kiss of death. You know, that's really the worst thing that anyone can say. So, because we had attained a level of success at the European Championships in 2016, got to knockout stages, and also conjured. But basically, the Irish soccer history is kind of have these punctuation marks, which is these these iconic soccer moments that you know, as a kid you grew up seeing them. Hopefully as a kid you grew up and get to experience one or two of them. And at the European Championships in 2016, Robbie Brady's header against Italy, is one of those defining kind of moments. There's a photo of Robbie Brady celebrating with his family immediately after scoring that goal. He's got his eyes closed, and his brother is kissing him, and his girlfriend is kissing him, and you're like, oh my God, this is high emotion. This is exactly what sport's all about. So when you reach that level, from an Irish perspective, there has to be a regression to the mean. That's precisely kind of what happened in terms of
the universe. The universe has to balance itself out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have to put up with, so basically we do well at Euros. So people are now expecting a certain level of performance, and unfortunately, historically, we struggled to do that, and it was hard to watch occasionally. The actual product itself was really, really boring and really grey, and really just about getting over a line. It was catchy in terms of Mark Hunting and Roy Keane, in terms of their how they were dealing with the media, those hard questions they were facing. They were kind of not fronting up and not admitting that it was difficult on the eye. It was all about results, blah blah blah, and then ultimately. You can only use that excuse to a certain extent. So you can only use that excuse once the results are going your way. So when you get absolutely stumped by Denmark in your own backyard, with essentially everything to play for and everything on the line, you can't really turn around and say, well, we got this far based on this level of performance, because ultimately the result has gone against you. So it was difficult. I mean, the actual game itself against Denmark was quite traumatic, just because everything just ended up. A term used back home is the arse fell out of it, and that was it. It was like the arse just fell out of the entire game. So it's just not really justifiable having a complete collapse like that, and ultimately it was kind of a bit of a hangover, right? a hangover from the good times, and as anyone knows who enjoyed good times in Ireland, hangovers do tend to last a considerable amount of time. So this was just our one to deal with. It was disappointing. I kind of felt as well that it maybe was time for Martin O'Neill to step aside and maybe for a new man to come in, because the squad was transitioning as well. We've already had a couple of retirements of certain players who were kind of immersed in veteran status, and they've stepped away. So it's a new slate, but it's the old management team, heading into the Nations League and all that fun stuff. So it was disappointing, but historically, and when put into context, it certainly wasn't too surprising ultimately.
It's so funny, just the different tone that the Irish fans take versus the American fans take at failure. The Irish ones are like, well, what did you expect? How dare you expect success?
I was there during the last World Cup. I was there during the last World Cup, and it was when Ireland played against Germany. And there is that sentiment, and it was different being in a country like Ireland where football is it's a little bit more, it's more important and more significant, I would say, per capita than in the United States. But at the first whistle, you really felt like we're gonna get a result against Germany.
Yeah.
and then they lost, I think, like 5-0 or 4-0. And then all the Irish guys I was with, they were just like, they're shite. They're shite. Yeah. Which is great. At least you can laugh about it afterwards.
For sure.
Which is what's significant.
Speaking of laugh about it afterwards or during, you got a chance to go with Jay Baruchel to go I guess you kind of traced a little bit of your history and you learned a little bit about Ireland. But the point of the film, Celtic Soul, is to go and get a chance to go watch the Glasgow Celtic, football team play and get a chance to go to Paradise, which is hilarious way to name anything in Scotland. And you also trace a little bit of the history of where the Celtic left a little bit and how, a lot of your ancestors left and Jay Baruchel's ancestors left.
Yeah, and also if you don't know who, the listeners, if you don't know who Jay Baruchel is.
Oh, yeah,
he's one of those guys, he's in every movie.
Yeah, you've seen him a million times.
Some people don't remember his name, but he was in Knocked Up, he was in...
This Is the End.
This Is the End.
Yeah, he was in a bunch of movies. And
a bunch of Judd Apatow stuff.
Yeah, a lot of Judd Apatow stuff.
Hilarious, dude.
What was that like for you? Was I know in the beginning of the movie it said that you didn't know Jay Baruchel, and you sort of got a chance to meet in Montreal because he refuses to move to LA and he lives in Montreal. Was that for the film or was that true? That's the first time you guys met?
It was definitely the first time that we had a camera crew with us. We had met each other just once before, which was when we were trying to concoct the plan. Ultimately, we had a lot of side conversations and about 4,000 text messages, and we had already kind of ironed out a lot of what we wanted to do. But I think as well, we also kind of just felt the need that we need to see that we could gel, because it was important for us to have a rapport and to have that ability to bounce off each other.
What was that like?
I think
what was that like traveling through a country with someone who seems, as fun and free-spirited, but also probably kind of hard to corral sometimes, like Jay Baruchel and yourself, just sort of both of you guys in this new experience, because it leads to a lot of very hilarious moments in the movie. But what was just that like?
It was pretty surreal, because it's like, firstly, everyone thinks that they're funny, right? Everyone thinks they're funny in their own way. Like, I'm hilarious, obviously.
Not us.
Filming,
not us,
I'm
Owen.
just going to be, there's going to be zingers popping out every second. But then you're actually on camera with the guy who's like naturally one of the funniest people in the world. And you're thinking, is this really going to work? Is my humor going to translate here? But no, once we got on and once we had, the kind of blueprint for our friendship to kind of bounce off, that solved a lot of problems. Ultimately, when you put two guys in a car and ask them to drive around Ireland, there is going to be kind of organically bizarre and funny things that will happen, no matter if cameras are running or not. And that's kind of what happened. I'm a bit peeved that some of the more hilarious moments weren't captured on camera because sometimes like just logistically, all of the car was wired up for cameras all the time. But as soon as it got dark, the material was effectively unusable. Just because if we're having a conversation in the car, you can't see either one of us. The guy can't stick it in the edit. So but there was this amazing moment which is so natural. So like Irish people love death, right? They do a great job with death. We love a funeral. When someone dies, it's part of that kind of really black humor type thing. But there is this one thing in Ireland, and Jay found it organically. He was in the front of the car and he was fiddling around the radio, trying to get a radio station. And it was during a news bulletin on local radio. And so he's, and I'm like, oh, I just want you to listen to this thing that's about to happen. And Jay's looking at me saying, and I'm not sure if Ireland is the only country where this thing exists, but we have something that's called the death notices. So the newsreader on a local radio station will take this time of who has died in the local area. So, you have your little news headlines, and then it's O'Callaghan, Eoin, peacefully, surrounded by family and friends. And Jay is looking at me saying, what is happening? And I'm like, I'm so excited because you've got to experience this incredibly beautiful, organic Irish thing, which is the radio death notices. And it was a really funny scene, but unfortunately, it all happened in the dark, so we couldn't actually use it in the movie. So
that's a shame.
That was relatively heartbreaking for me, actually.
It's so funny you said that because as we were driving from the sort of, I guess, the Galway area to Dublin, we were kind of tired of the music on our Spotify on our phone. So we just decided, let's listen to some radio. And I'm not sure if I necessarily heard the Irish Death Bulletin, but I know that we became depressed very quickly. And we went back to listening to music about people selling drugs in Atlanta. Like that
was more comforting.
The general tone of Irish radio is like none who you are forced to stand next to for an elongated period of time. It's the show. The movie itself is absolutely hilarious. And we got a chance to, or at least I got a chance to see it at this point now a year ago, but it's now finally coming to light where the general fans can see it. Where can people go find this movie? Where can people go see this absolutely hilarious movie with you and Jay Baruchel?
So it is finally through the very nice people at Kicking and Scooting, Rachel Marcus, Greg Lallis, Ollie, Noah, the whole team. It's finally available right across the United States. So on iTunes, Google Play, Hulu, Comcast, DirecTV, all of those various outlets where people tend to get their media from these days. It's not Blockbuster anymore or whatever. It's widely available on all those outlets. So we released it only about 2 weeks ago now. So it's kind of weird. You kind of unleash it to the wider sphere. So you get all these messages from complete strangers, and it's very, very strange. I told my dad, there's a scene in the movie with my parents.
The stuff with your parents and your wife is hilarious.
Yeah, it's because they're very quintessentially Irish. So I have to explain to them, we want to film this scene with you guys. They every minute detail of what was going on. They still have no idea what it was. At one stage after we filmed, my dad got up and he's making small talk with Jay, and he asked Jay what he did for a living. And Jay, because he's such a humble, nice guy, he said, I do a bit of acting and I do a bit of writing. And in my dad's head, he obviously hears the word writing. He thinks, oh, well, Eoin does a bit of writing. He obviously is kind of writing the same way. And he says to Jay, well, Jay, you can tell everyone in the next piece you write about all the crazy people you met in Ireland. And I have to say to my dad, they write films. Like he's not a travel writer. Like he doesn't work for Lone Planet.
Yeah, he's right.
But my dad, he just doesn't get it. Like, I mean, what's the film? What's the screenwriter? Like, he just doesn't know. So I had to tell him that, listen, Dad, you've now got a burgeoning fan base right across all of North America, not just Canada now, but it's released on iTunes and Google Play in the States. So just be prepared for the agents to start calling you. That there is a certain niche of an octogenarian Irish person that I think my dad would be perfect for across a wide variety of maybe independent films. So he's waiting by the phone every day in advance of those agents from Hollywood who are ready to call him.
Hilarious. Jay Baruchel, the travel blogger. Thank you so much, Eoin, for taking the time to speak with us. I really enjoyed the film. There's a bunch of places. You go to Google Play, Vudu, Amazon, iTunes, on Spectrum, DirecTV, Walmart, Target, Best Buy. A lot of places for Christian to finally go see this film.
I will watch. I will get it on iTunes.
And everyone listening. So get a chance. Go check that out. It's absolutely hilarious if you like soccer. Even if you hate Celtic. I don't care if you have a Rangers tattoo on your forehead. You will enjoy this film. It's absolutely hilarious. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, Eoin.
It's a pleasure. Thanks a million. Cheers.
That's it for us. My name is Alexis Guerreros.
My name is Christian Polanco.
Together, what are we? The Cooligans!